So when I decided to, return to the church and come back into full communion, the priest told me one of the first things I had to do was go to confession. I hadn't, been to confession in 15 years at this stage in my journey home. And, so I spent a lot of time, examination of conscience, going through all the different sins that I committed in, 15 years and trying to make a very good confession, because up to this point in my life, I probably hadn't, and once I got done with that, I found myself with about 15 pages worth of confessions. And so in thinking of this and looking at normal confession times at the local parish, I'm like, well, I don't want to just show up and, spend an hour in there and keep other people from, receiving the sacrament of confession. So I initially tried connecting with the pastor at the parish and trying to set up a separate time for me to come in and meet one-on-one with him. At the time, our schedules were conflicting because of the time of the year and the nature of what was going on with his schedule. And so eventually I said, okay, this parish, they every Wednesday, they have a daily mass at 7 a.m. I'm going to go to that mass, and then afterwards they have confession. And I'm just going to sit in the pew and wait, and I'm going to be the very last person to go, because then I know I have the full time, and God bless the priest who's going to sit in this confessional and hear this for the next hour, that he didn't think he was going to start his day this way, but to me it made the most sense to do that. So I went what appeared to be one random Wednesday at the time, and I did all that. And it was kind of funny because I got into the confession, and about 3 sins in, the priest who was in the confessional at that time stopped me and he was like, hey, have you talked to Father so-and-so about these sins? And I'm like, yes, Father, because there's some things I had to go through to validate our marriage and whatnot. And so, got through that confession. And, for my penance, you're used to getting the, say 3 Hail Marys or 2 Our Fathers. I love the penance that he gave me. He was like, I want you to go to Mass for the next 3 days in a row, but not receive communion. And in my mind, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Here I am trying to come back into full communion with the church. I've just confessed 15 years worth of sins. I'd like to receive communion, but that was the penance. So for the next 3 days, I did that. And so that confession was December 13th. So on December 14th, 15th, and 16th, I went to Mass every day. And when it was time for communion, I just stayed kneeling in the pew. And then on December 17th, I was able to receive communion for the first time, which was so profound and beautiful because December 17th was my birthday. So, it's like I'm born into this world, and I was born into the Catholic Church, but now I am here later in life, kind of being reborn again, if you will, on my birthday by coming back into full communion. And, later, a few months later, my wife had came into the church, and we're at the Easter Vigil, and that night we're going through, being nostalgic, if you will, going through my old box of religious stuff that my mom gave me. And, I have a glow-in-the-dark rosary in there and other sacramentals and first Bibles. And I get to my certificates of all my sacraments. And, I start going through, when was I baptized and confirmation. And I look at my certificate of my first confession, and it's December 13th. I mean, my wife and I were just bawling in tears of God took my first confession when I was just a little child, and now 27 years later, I'm getting to redo my first confession on the exact same day of December 13th. And, being Catholic, having such a great love and unity with the saints to try to emulate them and live our lives in a holy way. December 13th is the feast day of St. Lucy. And if anybody knows, she's the patron saint of the blind. And I kept thinking to myself, I had been so blind to the faith my entire life. And now here God was opening my eyes through confession and bringing me back, because he knew that that's what I needed. And it was just something that will stay with me forever. Every time I go to confession, I ask for the intercession of St. Lucy. I have a little prayer card I take with me. And it's just, it's one of my favorite things to do, not commit sin, but definitely to confess it.